This is my boy's BMW 640D after he let someone borrow the car and they got hit into from the opposite lane, causing the front two alloys to crack and buckle, the whole front end ripped off, and everything on the driver's side is crushed and pushed in. The wing was split in half, taking all the brackets home with it. My boy dodged the biggest bullet cause none of the airbags was deployed, but the usual front two seatbelts was locked out. This spec was fully loaded with heads-up display and a Christmas tree of faults. We had to get the 6 Series towed to my boy's driveway cause it was sat parked for almost a year. First thing I did was check the boot for any savable parts.
Oh, we got the lower grille.
Oh, that might be the left side of the
Headlight.
yeah, the right side, the driver's side. You can't see it clearly, but most of the parts was covered in mold. I started stripping off the front end so I can make a list of parts I'll need. First thing off was the V-bar, which turned into a boomerang after the crash. The more parts I start to take off, the more I wonder what did he actually crash into. Because the radiator being bent and curved like that, but the crash bar isn't bent at all from the front, doesn't make any sense. Let me know in the comments how you think the accident actually happened. The wings have been split in half. Karate chop. It's broken off the brackets, and I've seen online they go for like 300 to 260 pounds. It's got a massive gap. Then when I put it together, this one's bent downwards. Managed to take this bit off, a good bit of hammering and a pry bar. The only issue I'm running into now is this part doesn't want to come off. It's a tight T20. But this one completely snapped off. After fighting for 20 years, I managed to remove the bonnet lock actuator, which thankfully had a part number. Removing that gave me more space to hammer the life out of what remains of the headlight bracket. I took off the left side so I can compare it to what I'm missing from the right side, because I had no diagrams on what goes where, so this made life a little easier for me. After making a rough list of parts we needed, we headed over to Braintree, which is an hour and a half away depending on traffic. Little did we know that this spec 6 Series parts was super hard to find. We got a complete M Sport LCI front bumper in good condition, upper slam panel cover, got the V-bar, active radiator, air intake, and all of those parts together just made us wake up on how this build isn't going to be cheap at all. You won't believe how much it came up to. £920, you heard that right. At this point it would have been smarter to just rebuild the M6. As for this piece, I was confused as to where it went. I even checked the part number and I didn't know where it would go, but luckily I got the whole front piece with the actual flaps, and it connects up right here and it's here. While I was waiting on the complete radiator pack with the slam panel I ordered from eBay to come, I paid a visit to the 6 Series breakers again in Braintree. The reason why we're changing it over is it's completely bent in. That's no good. On the other side, where is it? It's over here. You can see the massive chunks are missing for it. Thankfully my blue Bugatti is super practical and everything just about fits. I cracked the bolts loose on the floor with the breaker bar because my impact gun isn't the strongest. Milwaukee, if you're watching this, donate me a free impact gun or sponsor me, please. I tried playing nice with the wheel, it was time to pull out the hammer. After a few soft blows, it's finally off. As you can see, completely buckled. Of course it's going to be pouring down. Look how bent that is. That goes in and then goes round. Massive chunks. Another massive chunk as well. Of course, with the wheel off, I went ahead and I checked underneath just to make sure there was nothing else broken. Thankfully, there wasn't any hidden damage, but just a fat oil leak. But I can deal with that later on, but the alloys, the silver looks so much better than the gunmetal grey. Some parts came through. Bonnet, lever or latch, one of them. That's for the hinges. Here is the bonnet release cable that I didn't need because it was completely smashed up on this side. That's the air duct that goes in towards down that way. Luckily for us, the 6 Series parts did share some similar parts to the 5 Series from the F10. Just those 3 parts cost us £117 from eBay. Got the bracket directly from BMW for only £123, while everyone else was reselling it for a bit more. You'd be surprised sometimes it's a lot cheaper to buy from the main dealer than it is private. Why is the box so damn long? All of this just such a small. Where is the sensor? Yeah, it's literally just that. We got a pedestrian protection sensor directly from BMW for only 140. Just for peace of mind that I know I'm not buying one that's already been triggered. And it feels like I paid £140 just for the packaging. As soon as I got back, I started to put on all the parts, and I didn't have much space on my iPhone to record me to put on the new rad pack and the new crash bar on. I was enjoying the process because there wasn't really much help online, so I was just learning as I went along. Of course, we're going to change it out. Kept working on the car till around 3 or 4 AM, just putting the whole front end back on just so we could see if we were missing any other parts. I kept telling myself we'll pack things up and go home after I install one more part, but the more I put back on the car, it just made me want to stay and finish it all, so that's what we did. Last thing to put on was the new pedestrian protection sensor, and we just threw the bumper on with a couple of zip ties so we could see how it would look, and man, it's starting to look like a car again. After 4 hours of sleep, the next morning we drove up to, you probably guessed it, the same 6 Series breaker, and grabbed the mint same colour bonnet for only £600. £1. Everywhere else was selling it for around £700 in bad condition and a different colour, which saves us money on getting a respray. Luckily he had the same colour front two seatbelts, which we grabbed off him for £250, totaling that trip off to £850. Bro, it's massive, man. Wallah, it's hella tall. Got all damaged broken one off, new ones on, all the washers. Why does it go out of focus? Got all the washers out. First try alignment was probably the worst I've ever seen, but obviously we fixed that later on. So I changed out this side because it was broken. Changed out both of them, but not this one because I thought it's just the sensor to let you know when the thing's open, the bonnet. Turns out this is actually all connected to the pedestrian protection sensor. So if I was to put in the new one and not change this one, it would have blown all four again. Watching this back, I was completely wrong. It would have just kept the warning light on the dash for the pedestrian protection sensor. This one was snapped. Got the new one. I completely forgot to mention, we also got a headlight washer nozzle from the 6 series breakers when we went to get the bonnet. Took off the grills because I know we're going to swap it out for black ones. I'll leave you to enjoy listening to the M57 engine running and driving for the first time just up and down the road. The car looks crazy with a missing headlight and no kidney grills, so we've got the blacked out kidney grills for I think around £40, and the smallest parts always make the biggest difference. Us car guys got a problem of doing mods before maintenance, but can you blame us sometimes? That looks so much better. After a week of looking everywhere for a headlight, no one in the country had it, so I desperately called BMW to ask them how much it would be, and they said £2,200 without any ballast. The problem was none of us had that kind of money to throw on just a single headlight. This held us back for so long as everyone was selling the pre-LCI non-adaptive LED headlights. And just like that, our prayers were answered. We found only one guy selling on eBay and we bought it straight away, no questions asked. Finally got the headlight, £1,500. That is not worth it. To save myself the trouble of getting someone to come through and code it in, I just swapped out the old ballast and put it onto the new headlight. It's actually working. So we got it to work. Now, we've got headlights to actually work. Look how bright that looks on the camera. That's one problem out the way. I scanned the car with my BTEC scanner and it wouldn't let me calibrate the steering angle sensor. A fault code came up with a damaged clock spring, so I took it apart and saw the damage from when the steering wheel was stolen a few months ago. I got the exact same one from the usual 6 series breaker for £140, so it didn't need to be coded in. That was working fine until I hit my biggest problem. Every light was on the dashboard because of this one 5-amp fuse that kept blowing. And the car randomly cut out on us in the middle of the road with this sign on the dash 4 times with no crank or start at all, leaving us no choice but to get it recovered right back to the driveway. I stripped the whole front end off again to look for any damaged wires because all the different scanners I used was showing there was a short circuit to ground on the front's wiring. No matter how hard I looked, I couldn't find anything. The car just sat there and had no solutions to this problem. I'm not a mechanic, I'm just a guy that loves cars, and I'm surprised I've even made it this far because I've never done something this big, which is why I'll never be ashamed of asking for help, which is exactly what I did. I took the car and got it recovered all the way to Braintree to the 6 series breakers, because if there's anyone that knows how to work on the car, it's him, because he's got over 20 of them. The problem was diesel flooded the ECU over time, which was caused by the low pressure fuel sensor which failed, allowing fuel to pass through the sensor plug and through the wiring harness all the way into the ECU, which sounds impossible, but you'd be surprised. It's a common fault on the F10 and F06 platform. He charged us a total hefty bill of £1,300, which was his diagnosis fee, which took him 3 days to find the problem. A new ECU, well, not really a new one, just a second-hand one, and one of his guys to come over and just clone the ECU. And lastly, a new wiring harness that isn't filled with diesel. I haven't even got the space on my phone to record the process of me doing front disc and pads. You can see how bad it's gotten. Where's the pads? There's literally no pad left. It's fully metal and metal. Got Brembo disc and Brembo pads as well, with a new brake plate sensor as well. But I don't have any space to even record any of the process, so it's just gonna be on and off. Quickly before my phone gets full, just look at the pad. My god, there's nothing left. There is nothing left. This thing was breaking on hopes and dreams. Damn. That's the new disc and pads on. Plenty of meat compared to out onto the rear. Already went ahead and took it off. That's the old pads. Super thin on one of them. The other one, yeah, it's kind of thin as well. The outer one's way thinner. It's the reason why I want to change it. Got the new Brembo ones. I go ahead, grease it up just on the edges and slap it on. That's the new pads on, all greased up and nice and clean. Gonna go ahead and slap on the other side and change the brake sensor. And lastly, I did a full service on the car, which I didn't get all in video due to no space being on my phone. I changed the usual, just the oil filter, air filter, cabin filter and the fuel filter. And that's the build almost done, which came up to cost a total of £5,100. If you enjoyed the video, you know what button to press.